The Prime Minister yesterday announced that he did not want our nation to be an island of strangers, and that the previous governments have been involved to create this environment of being strangers. What's most fascinating about this concept or idea is that this particular strategy of divide and rule has been going on for centuries, and it is a governmental strategy. What we must understand is that integration has failed, and it has not failed by chance. Now, there are different ways to integrate a nation, but the government that initially believed in immersion education and integration of the minorities into an English British cultural upbringing was stopped by previous governments. Thatcher, Major, Blair all encouraged what would become and be known as multiculturalism. And this was extended right up until the point of Theresa May and going into Rishi Sunak's government. So the idea that the government has no idea of how immigration and integration has failed the country, how they're waking up from the sand, plucking their head out of the sand to understand that something has gone entirely wrong. The next point that we need to understand about immigration is that the government does not want to uplift the British people. It does not want to believe in the English British people across the four regions of our nation. We have the Scottish, Northern Irish, English, and Welsh citizens of the country. The question I would like to put to the Prime Minister through GB News, I'm addressing GB News as well here. I'm independent journalist, of course, is that when will you offer English nationality, Prime Minister, to English citizens and residents? Why do you withhold English nationality, English citizenship? And why are you so adamant to prevent the integration of our society? Now, your attitude to reduce immigration has a fair point, but this should have been something that needs to be looked at from a very balanced point of view. Now, the idea of immigration is quite clearly understood through supply and demand. It's a balance of the equilibrium, Prime Minister. And what has been seen from the end of Thatcher's time to Major's time is that he encouraged immigration. John Major encouraged immigration of the asylum claims. Actually, what he was against was legal immigration. He was against legal migration. And his only interest, and the prime ministers that came afterwards, was the settlement of the rich cronies into the British society. Not entitled citizens, but the rich financial cronies who were given entry clearance to enter the United Kingdom, and the asylum seekers. Now, there was a strategy behind this. The strategy was to provide for the asylum seekers frontline work to them. Because they knew, the British government has always known, and the British media knows this as well, GB News listened to this quite clearly, that our British government does not want to pay up British workforce. Their due entitlement of financing their survival budget. Why can't you understand that to reduce immigration, you need to invest in the British people? But you don't invest in the British people. You've never believed in the British people. I'm not talking to you personally, Mr. Prime Minister. I'm talking to all Prime Ministers, going back to Winston Churchill's time and even before him. They don't believe in the British people. They believe in themselves, their own ego, to show how much of a glorified um, leader they are, basically. Now, I'm trying to unpack what I mean by not believing in the British people. They have actually, even from the times of the colonial years, deprived the British people because they did not want the British people to succeed. And what I mean by the success of the British people is to give them a wage that they deserve, allow progressive social mobility, and to break the class hierarchy. I'm not saying to break the class system, I'm to break the restrictions of the class hierarchy that makes the upper class look down on the middle class, and the middle class and upper class look down on the working class, and the working class, upper class, middle class to look down on the class that is practically on the streets. Social mobility is very important, Prime Minister, but you don't understand that. What I do understand is the Prime Minister and the House of Commons always churns up their pay packet. And it's coming to a point, Mr. Prime Minister, and GB News. This is a point from GB News source and note that the only viable profession to come out of poverty is politics. Politics is good. Politics is greed, isn't it? Because politics doesn't really mean anything about serving the people, it's depriving the people. That's what the politics of the nation has been for all these centuries. This democracy is a fake democracy, Mr. Prime Minister. You know that. But the show must go on, of course, to show that we are the most democratic nation of the world and teaching the world how to democratize, how to subjugate the British people. And how better can we subjugate the British people by dividing them and making sure that we blame the others for the fate of the British people? We have created sweatshop workshops, employment. We've increased the working hours from 9 hours a day to 12 hours a day. 12 hours a day. 5-6 days a week. It's drop dead till you die. Drop dead working till you die, Prime Minister. Is that your strategy of what you call employment? The NHS is bursting. Doctors can't sleep. Drivers can't sleep. They have to get a 40 weeks on the job, basically, to survive. You're breaking the heart and soul of the nation by overworking British people. And they know, the British people know, that they cannot survive for long in this condition. Oh, underpaid, overworked, Prime Minister. But the paper goes to the politicians, year in, year out. Isn't that amazing how that's worked out? And so, what is the next step that happens? The next step that happens is that you bring in a shipload of migrants and the frontline working class migrants, whom the Labour Party does not even believe in anymore, does not believe in working class people, whether they're British migrants is irrelevant. You bring a shipload of migrants to do the jobs that the British people can't or won't do. And that creates a hierarchy of a colonial, neo-colonial mindset. That they will do the jobs that we can't do, we won't do, because we are not to be used by the British politicians. And that is the main point we're raising. You bring in the politicians to the forefront who actually have advocated the asylum claims to increase. It's now come to a point where it's out of control, Prime Minister. Illegal immigration did not happen by chance. It has happened and been choreographed over many decades, from the end of Thatcher's time to Major's time and into the other prime ministers, because They did not want minorities to become Western minorities. They did not want the immigrant to learn English. They did not want the migrants' children to learn English, to be educated in English schools. They were pushed back into communities, prevented from being integrated into English society, having English personality, English character, English heroism in many ways, because it was against the remit of the government, the state, to have minorities to be English brought up. Well, you have won. You got your Thomas Macaulay got his educated English foreign migrant children of migrants, British citizens, now minorities who have become Western minorities. But they were forsaken, Prime Minister. They were forsaken because they were seen to be unwanted, the undesirable lot, you see. And so they were deprived over many years, and much, much more happened after that. It was called a scandal that was released in 2018. Because what was quite clear was that after a point, the government used a strategy of segregation. Diversity is not working because it was not given a chance to work. Diversity has two possibilities, GB News. You can either bring diversity into what you would say segregated diversity, or allow diversity to integrate. And the policy that has been going on for many, many decades is the segregation of a diverse nation into sub-communities, bunged up into close-knit communities, not talking to each other, hiding from each other, hiding from their presence. Now, integration is a two-way process, Prime Minister. Integration requires all participants to get to know each other. It's not about the other conforming completely to become the host. If the other was to do that, it would be a complete conversion of where would it end? Do the others have to really convert to the point they have to lose their faith and, and religion? When you say this is a Christian nation, which it is it an inclusive Christian nation or is it an absolutist Christian nation, Prime Minister? What type of Christian nation do you want our nation to be? A Christian nation that includes others and other faiths, other backgrounds, and non-faiths? Or is it a Christian nation that's absolutist, goes by what you would say conversion into worshipping the Christian identity of God? Now, I'm not going to get into religious debate because Christ is beyond any religion. Christ is beyond Christianity. In fact, Christ never declared he was starting a new religion, but I'm not going to go there, Prime Minister. So my question to you, Mr. Prime Minister, who has only chosen GB News, has forgotten about all the other channels, all the news channels. Of course, we know that all the news channels are the fourth estate of the nation. We know that they are working for the government, but more so GB News is not only working for the government at the moment, but they have been lobbying to change government. They've been lobbying to bring in Nigel Farage, Jacob Rees-Mogg, Keir Starmer into the grips and talons of media control. That's what's happened, basically. I'm going to close to this at this point, GB News, and this is a point that's well to be noted by other media channels as well. The purpose of journalism, which I'm a journalist, I'm telling you what the purpose of journalism is to find the truth, is to look towards the truth and find out what is really going on and to present that truth to the people. And there are many people who are covering up the truth, including governments and prime ministers and criminals and laymen, and everyone's in it to cover up the truth. But the fact is, journalism is to release the understanding of the truth. It's not to lobby It's not to lobby a government or a parliament to change regime, which GB News has been doing so successfully, changing regime, lobbying. The journalist is not a lobbyist, but now it seems that the back chat in journalism is to lobby MPs into becoming forthright or whatever they would like them to be. Socialists, communists, I don't know. You tell me, GB News. So the point I'm trying to raise here, which I have raised for quite some time, successfully so, is that journalism is broken, and Parliament is broken, and the Prime Minister is broken. So, Prime Minister, why are you a stranger to this country? Why does the country not understand you? And why do you want to show that the stranger is the friend? A stranger can be a friend, I'm not saying the stranger can't be a friend. But the stranger has no interest to integrate. Prime Minister, do you have an intention to integrate into society? Do you have an intention to include everyone, or is GB News your elite channel now? This is Neil Mukherjee signing out. Truth, Time, Trust is my organization, and I'm happy to announce that as a journalist, I do these podcasts from time to time to understand how far low our country is sinking. And we're scuttling our own ship, basically. But you wouldn't know that, would you? Neil Mukherjee, journalist, and more, signing out. Stay tuned, stay awake, stay blessed. Bye for now.